happens is I always say, like, life is an emotional battlefield. Like, it's not if you're going to be triggered today, it's when. Now, the degree and the intensity of a trigger is unique in and of itself. But what I'm getting at here is the moment, you are triggered, you see one of your buddies is ripped and jacked and used to always be the most ripped and jacked. Or you found out somebody's making a lot of money, somebody got married, someone's having a kid. These are potential triggering situations. And when I say triggering, they trigger an emotion.
Is that something that has changed in your mind, in the people you work with, since sort of you've stepped into the world of hypnotherapy?
There's a great quote I often like to come back to and share. An intelligent man is always learning. A wise man is unlearning.
How does hypnosis tie into that then? I guess maybe I'm asking because maybe that's what's missing. Maybe that's the secret sauce that people need to get past some of these hurdles or mindset blocks or whatnot.
Yeah, so everything we've discussed, and I'll share a couple other common examples, whether it's performance anxiety, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, fear of, judgment, failure, embarrassment, success, all of these feelings, beliefs, and behaviors are all.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Paul Salter. He's a mindset and performance coach, credentialed hypnotherapist, and keynote speaker who has personally coached nearly 4,000 high performers over the past 17 years. So I will stop there, Paul. Like I said, we're gonna have you walk us through that journey. But first, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time out. As I mentioned, we have not talked about hypnotherapy or anything like that on the podcast. So it's a cool, unique, new to me anyway. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jason. I'm excited about the conversation. I appreciate your energy. And really, my story begins, if you can imagine a competitive, gritty, multi-sport high school athlete who's all of about 5'3" and 110 pounds soaking wet. All of his peers and competitors are bigger, stronger, faster. All of the girls he has crushes on are much taller than him. So I'm a little runt of an athlete, if you will, but also a bit of a nerd too, which will make more sense in a moment. And I was trying to eke out every competitive advantage I could, since size and strength were definitely not helping me at that time. So fortunately for me, I fell in love with the weight room. My mom always instilled a good, nutritious, healthy eating habits amongst me and my siblings. And I grew up at the time where Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan came onto the scene, just absolutely dominating their respective sports. Kobe Bryant, Roger Federer to follow. And I always had this curiosity. Why are these particular individuals so much better than all of their competitors, yet they more or less spend the same number of hours training, practicing, and preparing? And I didn't know it at the time, but I look back and I can say as I began to fall in love with getting my hands on and reading anything and everything under that umbrella of whether you call it sports psychology or performance psychology. So I had this unique, athlete nerd hybrid personality going in high school. And as my knowledge grew in this realm, thankfully, so did I physically grow. I can claim 6 foot today. It just took me a little while to get there. But this led me down a path of wanting to marry the two: psychology, performance, sports. I love to play sports. How could I get my foot in the door of the sporting arena to make an impact? And my journey ultimately took me down the path of becoming a sports dietitian. Now, people listening, you have to remember back then, it was very uncommon for professional and collegiate sports teams to actually have dietitians or nutritionists. It's laughable today because most teams have 3, 4, or 5. But back then, there were only 7 full-time dietitians across professional and I want to maybe say collegiate sports as well. Don't quote me on that last part. But long story short, there was not many of us. So at the time, it was a pipe dream. And I did everything I could to pursue that goal. I spent some time at UNC Chapel Hill with their sports dietitians. And then I spent some time down here in Bradenton, Florida at a place called IMG Academy, working with elite high school, collegiate, and then ultimately professional and Olympic athletes. But what really stood out, Jason, was at this time, I'm surrounded by some of the top, most talented athletes that I could ever be around. They already knew how to eat well. Yet, they lacked consistency. They lacked the behavioral frameworks that empowered them to apply the knowledge they had. And this was my first, I guess, moment of awareness that these people knew what to do but weren't doing it. So clearly it wasn't a lack of knowledge problem. There was something much deeper. So I took that and began to build kind of my foundational coaching practices rooted on really addressing what's going on between the ears and what's present weighing down on their heart. And I began to shift away from the athletic population and into more, call it general population, specifically helping men and women who were stuck in the yo-yo dieting cycle. And my approach wasn't to build meal plans, create these delicious, nutritious recipes of faux ingredient A, B, and C. It was really helping them uncover all of the beliefs they were holding on to that were holding them back, and all of the emotional baggage they were carrying that were weighing them down and getting them in the way of sustaining the weight loss they worked tirelessly to achieve. And I had a lot of fun. I coached thousands of people. I ran a community. I ran live events. And then I reached a fork in the road. You see, simultaneously, I'd always had this irrepressible passion for the game of poker. And it was always one of those internal conversations. Is it now or is it never? When's the perfect moment? And you and I both know there was never a perfect moment. So I decided it was going to be now. It had to be now. So I reached a point in my coaching business where things are fairly systematized. I've got my really good pulse on my community. My coaching clients are doing well. And I went all in on poker. And I pursued poker professionally for a couple of years. But about 6 months into that journey, I'm doing all the studying. I've hired the coaches. I'm doing everything I know I'm supposed to be doing to win at this game. And it feels like I'm just lighting money on fire. Not quite ready to throw in the towel, I decided to ask for help. So I hired a mindset and performance coach who happened to be a hypnotherapist. And in a very short amount of time, I suddenly started making more money, playing for more money than I ever thought I would. Yet, even more importantly, was the impact this coaching and specifically hypnosis was having on me as an individual was so positive, so impactful. I walked away from poker. I knew it was the next evolution of my coaching. So I got my credential as a hypnotherapist. I phased out all my remaining nutrition coaching clients to double down on the mindset work I was already doing. And then I think the smartest thing I ever did was surround myself with hypnotherapists and mindset coaches who were far more experienced, brighter, and educated than I ever was. So I could learn faster, learn from the mistakes they made, and absorb as much as possible to be the best coach and the actual best practitioner of hypnosis I absolutely could be. And that was many years ago, and I haven't looked back since.
There's a ton of stuff to talk about in there. That's a really a fascinating road. But it's interesting, and I feel like it, kind of really circled back around. But you said, kind of figuring out the thing, the thing between our ears that even though we have the knowledge and we know what we should do, why we don't do it. I mean, ultimately, it's like it's not. I mean, you go if you use the diet and the proper nutrition example, like it's not very hard to figure out like, oh, if I eat, a good healthy meal of like chicken and vegetables and I feel good. And if I eat, McDonald's, I don't feel good after. Like we all know. And even if you didn't have that, it's like there's no shortage of knowledge in the world anymore. So it's like you're to say, I don't know how to do something like is probably not very, it's not the reality of it. And it's like but there's reasons why we don't, and why, things like this. And so I guess I want to dial in on that specifically, like because you mentioned that before you got to the hypnosis part. And so sounds like maybe you had done some work on trying to figure that out as part of your original coaching path, and then added in So maybe talk to me a little bit about that that roadblock that people face.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate what you just shared, you're exactly right. When you know what to do but are not doing it professionally, personally, in your diet, in your golf game, in your business, in your marriage, it's no longer a lack of knowledge problem. It is a mindset problem. And specifically, what is often lost in today's age is that we are a tribal species and we are programmed to survive. not to thrive. So if you're listening to this podcast, I have an imagination that you're not just trying to survive and get by and settle for decent, good enough. You're trying to thrive, be the best you, leave an impact on the world and those you love. But what happens is all of our operating system, our subconscious in our nervous system are geared towards survival. We bring back in that tribal species comment I made long ago. If you were judged, rejected, or ultimately abandoned by your tribe, you literally died. You either starved to death or the saber-toothed tiger we all hear about had a great meal. Well, we fast forward to today, and the threats aren't nearly identical to what they once were, but the visceral experience of fear of judgment, abandonment, and rejection is more alive than ever before. So what ends up happening is when we have this knowledge and we fail to consistently execute, what's happening, number one, is our subconscious is saying, hey, whoa, you're stepping into uncharted waters. It's foreign, it's unfamiliar, it's potentially dangerous. So I'm not going to allow you to do that. I'm going to come up with 15,000 sneaky creative ways to help you sabotage yourself and bring you back down into this bubble of familiarity. Well, number two, as you start to step outside of your comfort zone and achieve a little more success, and success in this example could be money, could be recognition, could be love, happiness, confidence, whatever it is. But it poses a potential threat. We'll run with money, for example. If you and the 5 people you spend the most time with make X amount of money and you raise yourself up to the next income bracket, well, now there's a threat on that relationship. It invites in potential envy, resentment, judgment, jealousy. And because you are wired to belong, you might start to notice passive aggressive remarks, offhand comments. You might be the butt of jokes. Oh, must be nice. I wish it was that easy for me. And that can create friction and resistance. So you will subconsciously begin to play smaller, to dim your light, to pull back so that you can belong with that tribe. The threat of not belonging is as real today as it was back then. It just looks a lot different.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, the biological wiring that we have is just fascinating. And it's like, it makes sense when you think about it from a caveman perspective, but it like kind of doesn't make sense at all anymore. And you would almost think there'd be some evolutionary steps to have occurred that would have moved us away from that. I don't know, like that type of behavior or that type of response to things. But I mean, I've heard those explanations before, and it makes total sense. I understand why, but at the same time, I'm always left with that question, like, well, why don't we stop doing that? Like, why don't we? We've evolved in other ways. Things change over time. Like, why do we not evolve to not be so dependent on that, tribal, feeling, sensation?
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really hard to undo millions of years of evolution, but I hear you. You're right. We've made such incredible progress in so many other areas. It does leave it to be quite curious, to say the least, as to why that entity is still as prominent as ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, it's almost more harm than good. Like before it was, I don't know. And again, that's probably a whole different topic to talk about. But I am always fascinated by that. Like, it's like, okay, I get it, why our ancestors did this, but like, we're not there anymore. But that still doesn't necessarily tell me us out. What do you think? Why is it so hard for people to recognize that, I guess. So if we accept that as true, then you would say, well, what, maybe we can recognize that that's the way it is and say, okay, I have this reaction, but like really I want to, and I mean, I guess it still goes back to that, you've got your group of friends, your close friends. And if you're talking financially or you're talking fitness or whatever, like any of that stuff, people tend to, flock with other like individuals.
So I think really it's important to recognize, or go ahead.
No, please. I want to hear your thoughts on it, because I'm almost just thinking out loud about like, why do we do these things?
Yeah, and even with the awareness, what happens is I always say, like, life is an emotional battlefield. Like, it's not if you're going to be triggered today, it's when. Now, the degree and the intensity of a trigger is unique in and of itself. But what I'm getting at here is the moment, you are triggered, you see one of your buddies is ripped and jacked, and you used to always be the most ripped and jacked, or you found out somebody's making a lot of money, somebody got married, someone's having a kid. These are potential triggering situations. And when I say triggering, they trigger an emotion. It might be a wave of jealousy, shame, anger, guilt, sadness, grief, whatever it may be. But that emotion is a temporary hijacking of your brain. Your critical, logical mind briefly goes offline, and that caveman brain becomes the predominant area of your brain that is active. And what it's doing is running a pattern, or a program in this case. That trigger detonates the emotion, and an emotion then puts a lens, or you can think of a lens like a pair of glasses over your eyes about how to view the situation. That lens is really just a belief. And it invites in beliefs about yourself, about others, about life. Is life fair? Is it unfair? Are people trustworthy or not? Wait, am I worthy? Am I deserving? Am I good enough? So this pattern now perpetuates from a trigger, an emotion, a belief, to how you talk about yourself, the story you tell yourself, to what actions you do or you don't do. So what I'm getting at here is all of that is pre-programmed, automatic, unconscious patterning. And it happens in a millisecond. So I tell all my clients I work with, one of our crucial goals at the core of the work we do is to be able to shift from unconscious reaction to conscious response. The only difference, aside from the subtleties in my word choice, is a moment of pause. And in that moment, you can choose different, do different, and then ultimately be and achieve different. But that's the crux of the work. It's unlearning these automated behaviors that were instilled to protect you and get your human and childhood needs met, and then to replace them with the beliefs and the behaviors you need today to become the version of you that's necessary to achieve your goals.
Is that something that has changed in your mind, in the people you work with, since sort of you've stepped into the world of hypnotherapy? Because I mean, you were working as a nutritionist before, which frankly often becomes one of the big examples that people use in our mindset and willpower discussions, where it's like, we all know we're not supposed to eat a package of cookies, but we still sometimes eat a package of cookies. Like, how do you change those things? In this country, obesity is a big problem. I mean, it's that moment of pause. I think it works very effectively. And I mean, funny enough, I talk about that with my kids, like just stop for a second and then let's like reset. But still, it doesn't maybe solve the problem entirely, in that, people may still have that, the first driver that we talked about, where that societal like push. What do you, how do you combat that? And I'm really interested in how did you kind of look at that before hypnotherapy, and has that changed for you since that kind of came into your life?
Yeah, there's a great quote I often like to come back to and share. An intelligent man is always learning. A wise man is unlearning. Like, look, I joke with people all the time. I'm actually dehypnotizing you because for the first 7 to 10 years of your life, you are incredibly malleable. You're literally the first 7 years of your life, you're like actually in walking hypnosis. Hypnosis is a fancy word to describe what brain wave you're primarily producing. In this case, it's a theta brain wave. And as children, we are primarily producing theta brain waves till about age 7 before we get more brain waves and more frequencies being produced. Now, the reason I share that is those formative years were so impressionable from not only our parents, siblings, and family members, our entertainment sources, our education, the education system. So all of that to say, we were just crammed with all of this programming, these set of core beliefs that aren't even yours. So unfortunately, by the age of 7, researchers estimate 95% of your beliefs are formed. So you can't do anything about that, but you're the only person who can do the work necessary to unlearn and upgrade them. And it's, when it comes to the nutrition realm, like, yeah, we hear all the time, there's binge eating, or there's, this triggered me, so I stress ate. It was emotional eating. But all of this has a familiar set of elements. If you told me, Paul, I always binge ice cream when the kids go to bed. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper. There's an emotion there. Maybe it's overwhelmed stress or sadness or feeling so out of control or vice versa. Like, there's always emotions present. And we're going to run with the fitness example. I don't know why, but we'll try to go somewhere else too. But it's like people used to tell me all the time, Paul, I want to weigh this number on the scale. I'm like, why? And when we really dig into it, oh, well, really what I want to feel is healthy, confident, sexy, strong, validated, proud, accomplished. And it really began to dawn on me, like, life is a game of energy. And literally the definition or derivative of the word emotion is energy in motion. When you're clear on how you want to feel, you can then align the most effective action steps possible to bring that feeling to fruition. And it can help you get clear on what you need to do and what you need to avoid to reach that goal. I'm not quite sure I'm answering your question, so I'll pause there, but hopefully that's valuable.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. And how does hypnosis tie into that then? I mean, that's kind of the I guess maybe I'm asking because, like, maybe that's what's missing. Maybe that's the secret sauce that people need to get past some of these hurdles or mindset blocks or whatnot.
Yeah, so everything we've discussed, and I'll share a couple other common examples, whether it's performance anxiety, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, fear of, judgment, failure, embarrassment, success, all of these feelings, beliefs, and behaviors are all learned, which means they can be unlearned. So hypnosis is a tool for that. And before we dig in, I think it's always important to get clear on what hypnosis is not, because some of you are waiting for me to pull out a pocket watch and get Jason to cluck like a chicken or to put him to sleep. And although that technically is a form of hypnotism, it is unlike anything I do or use with my clients. So I just like to reiterate, hypnosis is not magic. It's not mind control. It's not brainwashing. If Jason and I were going to engage in a hypnosis coaching session, he would be awake, alert, conscious, in control every step of the way. As I shared earlier, hypnosis is a natural state of mind. Every single one of you listening right now has already been in hypnosis multiple times today. It's the same state of mind you're in when you transition from sleeping to waking, when you're caught up in a favorite TV show or good book, or when you find that flow state while deeply immersed in a project at work or perhaps on the golf course. Now, all of that to say, when we go into that hypnotic state intentionally, we create two major benefits. Number one, every high achiever listening right now has that harsh inner critic, that judgmental voice always in the background. You suck. This will never work. Why bother? You're not good enough. We quiet all of that noise and negativity in hypnosis. And then number two, we connect with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious influences 95% of what you do every day. It's home to your memories, your beliefs, your emotions, and your habits. So like I shared earlier, all of the challenges and mindset blocks we've discussed, they're all learned. I'll use hypnosis to go back to the source of when you learned to feel anxious speaking in a public situation, because it was a learned behavior. So maybe, for example, this individual I'm talking about in fourth grade had to give a presentation to a class. Maybe they forgot their words. They weren't prepared. They peed themselves. Their classmates laughed. their teacher laughed or wasn't supportive. So this little boy or girl learned it is not safe to speak in front of other people. And that anxiety was brought on as a result of that. The belief was there and the accompanying behavior to ingrain that belief. So the belief is it's not safe to speak in front of other people. And the behavior is I get anxious, tight, nervous, sick, whatever it is, whenever asked to speak in public. So we're able to go back, just like extracting a memory and seeing it as a Microsoft Word document. We can go edit that memory. We can diffuse the emotion, change the perspective, provide the tools, the support and safety that little you needed, and then put that memory back into your subconscious, just like a file or a document. And we get a positive ripple effect that ripples to the present moment, where we have now diffused the emotional charge around speaking in public. So we begin to feel more lightness, more ease, more clarity, more confidence. And then we build on that with the actual application and action steps that follow.
It's fascinating. How effective do you feel like, is this, you can do this like in a one-time session, you have to, or it's an ongoing process. How do you look at it in terms of, when you're working with people, the people that you're coaching?
I'm biased. Let's be clear. It literally changed my life for all the best, very radically. And I'm a hypnotherapist. So I will never overpromise and underdeliver, but I'll be candid. I work in packages of calls, typically a package of 10 calls. If there's a major block, pattern, or belief that is keeping you stuck, or you're overwhelmed with emotion A, B, or C, that first call is going to bring immense relief, clarity, new perspective. You're going to see it, but more importantly, you're going to feel it. You're going to embody it. And every call is going to be its own unique entity and experience. But every call is going to be incredibly valuable, because where most coaching and traditional therapy is limited is it's just conscious conversation, really re-ingraining the neural pathways that are responsible for the bad feelings and behaviors. In hypnosis, we go straight to the freaking source. We go right to the core of why you're behaving, feeling, and believing the way you are. And we do the work there so that you get a positive ripple effect in every aspect of your life.
It sounds amazing, really. Like I'm just thinking to that, person that has trouble with public speaking, the example that you gave me, that would be being able to undo that. Do they have to know, sticking with that example, do they have to know the thing that, because I feel like a lot of us don't remember the thing that caused us to have, fear or anxiety around a specific topic. Like, do they have to remember that, fourth grade time they had called upon or something?
Yeah, but they likely won't consciously. Yeah. And then depending on the moment, candidly, there's a good amount of coaching sessions in which we're digging into some traumatic past, and your mind works to repress the hell out of that. You don't want to remember that again. It was such a traumatic experience. So to answer your question, no, more often than not, the memories are always there, but your ability to extract or even recall it vaguely is quite difficult. You might know, oh yeah, I was picked on as a kid, but all of a sudden we might have one or two memories where it was really bad. You were ruthlessly bullied, and it's shoot, I forgot about that, but now, oh my God, and then we do the work necessary to heal and move through it.
That's a good to hear, I guess, because my thought was, well, I don't know that I would remember the things that you probably intentionally blocked them out of your mind. So being able to go back and figure out, what that moment in time was. It's fascinating. I'm guessing it's maybe it's a fairly permanent adjustment. I don't know what you call it. In the sense that, okay, if you're truly extracting the bad memory and replacing it with a better, it should hopefully it lasts.
Absolutely. Now, again, I always like to be candid, because many people might be listening and oh, wow, hypnosis, one section, I'm fixed for good. Well, first, you were never broken, but two, there's still work. So I always like to say, the reason I work in packages of calls is because the great work we do on a call utilizing hypnosis will be profound, insightful, relieving, releasing Yet it still needs the application and integration component too, the frameworks, the action steps, the complementary accountability on hand too. So over time, yeah, the change becomes further, deeper ingrained into your psyche. But again, for some people that could take days or weeks, others it could take months. It just depends on your unique experience, your background, and what it is we're specifically working on overcoming and unlearning.
I would assume the people that sign up for coaching are receptive to it, but is it influenced by how, kind of open that person is to the hypnotherapy and all? This is probably just from like TV and movies or something, but generally I feel like people, you hear that if someone's not receptive to being hypnotized, you can't hypnotize them, and I know it's not exactly the same, so maybe this is a silly question, but I mean, how much of it is that person being kind of open to the, exploring these, because what's likely trauma?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, again, hypnosis is a natural state of mind. Everybody can be hypnotized. And just like any coaching dynamic, the client in an ideal coaching client relationship is there because he or she wants to be. They're committed to change. And candidly, I'm typically a last resort. Many people, like the athletes I work with, have done the sports psychologist. They've done the talk therapy. The entrepreneurs and executives I work with, they've had the business coaches, but nothing has quite clicked or hit the depth that they have desired. So someone shows up, I just tell them to work with me. You got to be open-minded. You got to be coachable. You've got to be as committed to your goal as possible. I'll take care of the rest. If you're paying me to sit down and show up and push you to be the best you, there is a level of vulnerability required, but that's on me as the coach to create that safe space, to provide the support and accountability to get you there. And I'm also, having done this for a while, like, you can be the most open-minded, coachable, and ready to rock and roll, but your subconscious has 1,000 different defense mechanisms and way it'll try to circumnavigate avoiding getting to some of those core deep memories. And through thousands of repetitions on my end, I can spot them. I have the tools and the intuition to trust and lean on to overcome them.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it really is fascinating. I think we talked about kind of the way, I mean, just going back to like the original example of diet and all of that. I mean, the only piece of diet advice I got as a college athlete was you can't eat too much. Like, my coach literally told me that. Like, I mean, in a way, it was true because we were you're so active and whatnot. But it wasn't like it shouldn't all be pizza or so. I mean, it was just like that was the one time I remember ever talking about food, and it's like, probably, I mean, now people, college athletes stuff have as you said, like nutritionists is a much bigger piece of the puzzle. So it's just kind of what I'm getting at is like the evolution of coaching and mindset theory, and now, you're talking about adding in hypnotherapy with it. I mean, there's just, it's just a very interesting space. There's a lot available that wouldn't have even been considered when I was in college and struggling with, whatever it was, can't get past a certain, mental block. So it's really, really very interesting. Paul, let me switch gears a little bit. I want to make sure I ask you the questions I ask every guest, and the name of the show is Know Your Why. So you have a very interesting background, and like I said, first time we've talked about hypnotherapy on the podcast, so that's pretty cool. But what is your why? What's driving you, for yourself?
So my why has recently changed, and for a while it was specifically like I love to learn. I told you that from the beginning. So I got to share this. Wow, this fun fact, this had a positive impact on my life. I love to share with others what I was learning and using myself as a guinea pig for. My thought was I could always save people, whether that's 10 days or $10. I could save them by the mistakes I made. Now I have a 16-month-old son at home, and he has rocked my world for all of the best reasons possible. So really my why is to show him what's possible. When you relentlessly pursue your goal and never take no for an answer, I want to be that role model for him, that anything is possible so long as you remain committed.
Love it. Yeah, they'll do that to you.
Yeah,
throw a kid in the mix, and suddenly you're like, oh man, all this matters now. It's a whole different perspective. So pretty cool. When people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, Instagram at the Paul Salter. Email Paul at unstuckyourselfmindset.com. However, if you enjoyed this conversation that Jason has led incredibly well, I have a podcast. It's called the Scratch Golfers Mindset Podcast. Big spoiler here. It's not actually a golf mindset podcast. It's a peak performance and personal development podcast disguised as one. You don't have to play golf. You don't have to know anything about golf, and you'll still find immense value from my guests and the conversation we have.
Awesome. We'll get all of that in the show notes so people can find you and find your podcast. Paul, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for all that you shared.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
Folks listening, make sure you connect with Paul. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get great guests. And thank you all for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?